Hello. Thank you guys so much for clicking this podcast today. I really appreciate it. This is the Cardano Aura podcast. I bring people on from the Cardano ecosystem that are adding immense value. And today we have the CSO of Genius Yield, and we're going to learn a lot about DEXs, about order books. Really make sure you guys stay till the end. It is going to be a great podcast. And as always, we'll be doing the giveaway word at the end. So make sure you guys comment that giveaway word that we mention at the end. And it does support the channel if you like, subscribe, all that. But let's jump into it. Hello. Thank you guys so much for clicking this video today. I really appreciate it. This is going to be an awesome educational podcast. Today I have with me the CSO of Genius Yield. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I honestly am. I've been really excited for this podcast. As I mentioned before we went, live or started recording, that I've been learning a lot about decentralized finance this year, and you being the chief scientific officer of Genius Yield, one that I'm very excited about. I think we're going to learn a lot today. So, what is your scientific background?
Yes. So my background is in machine learning and AI. So I used to work in biotech for many years in the US, San Francisco. And so we would build the early cancer detection. So building algorithms that then sequence the DNA of people from blood samples, and then we'll try to detect if someone has early signs of cancers, and then turn that into an FDA-approved test. So that's what I worked on in biotech for many years, and then I switched into crypto. First, as a senior consultant, I worked in DeFi products on Ethereum and also on the Cosmos blockchain, and so helping out a lot with designing new DEX designs, but also a lot of yield optimizers. And then I really want to bring that experience of machine learning and DeFi into Cardano with Genius Yield.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. For somebody that's new to this whole thing, what is a DEX and what utility does that provide to users?
Yeah, so a DEX is actually kind of the cornerstone application or protocol for a healthy decentralized finance ecosystem, right? So DEX stands for decentralized exchange, and so it allows you to exchange one token for the other in a decentralized way. So without any third party, right? It's non-custodial. And so it's the equivalent of what people are used to with Coinbase or Robinhood, but without that third party, where straight from using smart contract protocols, you can have basically peer-to-peer, right? People will be able to exchange one token for the other using smart contracts. And with that implemented, that allows you to then build on top of that a lot of other protocols like lending protocols or other DeFi projects that often would need DeFi as kind of like the base layer to build then things a bit more exciting or complicated.
So you feel that a DEX is really at the core of decentralized finance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of other protocols are actually probably waiting for DEXs to enter Cardano right before launching, because this kind of like a prerequisite for those other applications. And so I think that's what we've seen with Cardano. A lot of the first DeFi projects have been DEXs.
Awesome. What is a smart swap?
Yes, so a smart swap is a programmable swap. And so in the same way that a smart contract is a programmable contract, a smart swap allows you to encode some internal logic to your swap. So if you use two DEXs maybe on Ethereum, the swaps are very simple, right? They're called market orders. You can only exchange one token for the other at the current market price instantly, right? There's no way to encode any kind of internal logic into your swap. But with a smart swap, you're basically encoding some kind of trigger condition that will make your swap executable. So instead of having you to execute the swap, the smart contract will execute the swap. So a simple example are limit orders. Let's say you want to buy a certain native asset at a price that is lower than the current price. then you can provide a limit order that says, I want to buy this price. I want to buy this asset when the price falls below this level. And so then you can submit that order onto the blockchain, and that order will, in a way, wait for that price to drop, or for finding someone that's willing to exchange you that asset at that price. And that's just kind of like the basic building block of a programmable swap. But we then can extend it with smart contracts to be much more expressive, right? So we're talking about, for example, dynamic swaps or algorithmic swaps, where instead of being the price, the trigger mechanisms, you can have other things. You may say like time is a trigger mechanism. Maybe you say you want to buy ADA every 10 days, or you can have something even more sophisticated, like I want to buy ADA whenever it hits a certain financial indicator, right? So maybe when the moving average hits a certain level, then you're willing to buy it. And so that allows you to then build out trading strategies within the smart swaps and have swaps kind of get triggered by other on-chain metrics that then allow you to, in a way, more sophisticatedly provide ways to buy and sell assets.
Thank you so much for that. So one interesting thing about the Genius Yield DEX is they're actually building a DEX first to gather data to then integrate a yield optimizer. So are smart swaps necessary for a yield optimizer? And maybe I jumped ahead a little bit too much. What is a yield optimizer? And are smart swaps necessary for the function of that?
Yes. So a yield optimizer, and specifically in our case, the yield optimizer is, like you mentioned, it built right on top of our DEX. And a yield optimizer provides for user a way to earn yield in a very passive way. And so that means that placing liquidity in a vault, and then we'll have multiple vaults with different trading strategies. And those vaults will then execute those trading strategies onto our DEX and provide the user with basically passive yield based on their risk level, or maybe the type of outlook on the market that they have. So a simple strategy could be like DCA, or a more advanced strategy could be trying to model volatility and then trade against that, or maybe detecting reversal in trends and trying to trade on that. And so the user will be able to benefit from advanced trading strategies, but without being an advanced trader themselves, by just placing liquidity in a vault and then see that generate income for them. Then going to your other questions, is smart swap necessary? Not necessarily. I mean, you can have we can optimize yield technically on any DEX, right? And the idea is initially we'll optimize yield just on our DEX, and then we'll then aggregate the yield across other DEXs. The advantage of our DEX is we want our DEX to be extremely expressive and be able to allow users to have a lot of tools to be able to trade. So traditionally, an AMM DEX, so a DEX based on an AMM model from Ethereum, are very limiting, right? You can only do limit orders and market orders, and you can only place liquidity across the entire price. So with our DEX, we want to introduce smart swaps to provide more flexibility in the orders, but also we want to introduce concentrated liquidity that allows liquidity provider to also place liquidity at specific price range, so they can capture more volume of trades and therefore earn potentially more rewards. So it's definitely more of a hands-on experience to interact directly with the DEX. And that's why we want to introduce the yield optimizer to make, for the people that are not day traders, that want to be able to benefit from those additional yields potential, but do it through a more hassle-free passive interface.
So it's more of a hands-off approach. You know, you put whatever assets you would like into a vault, and they do the liquidity providing for you to optimize those yields. Awesome.
That's right.
So you said that you spent a little bit of time developing on Ethereum. What lessons or designs did you learn over on Ethereum that you're actually bringing to Cardano? And then also, what is different? Are you guys trying anything new when it comes to the DEX?
So on Ethereum, I work on DeFi projects that were to work with the Uniswap v3. Uniswap v3 is the third version of Uniswap that allows you to place liquidity at specific price ranges. And so in theory, that would allow people to capture more rewards, more trades and more rewards. The problem is that it's a very active job, right? So you would need, as a liquidity provider, you would need to move around your liquidity every day. So it would be at the optimal um, price level to capture those trades. If you provide liquidity outside the current price, you're getting no rewards. And so we're building a secondary protocol that we're building algorithms, machine learning algorithms that would then try to automatically we call that rebalance your liquidity always so it always were at the optimal price point. So in theory, that was a really good idea. The problem is that it made it on Ethereum made it very hard to make it profitable because every time you move your liquidity reward, just the process of moving liquidity was so expensive that it would cut into your bottom line.
Because
And
of
so
the
then
fees.
we found out because of the fees,
Okay.
yes. And so then what we had to do is we had to rebalance less and less to pay less fees, but then that make it harder to optimize for those liquidity providers. So that's the main advantage, right, on Cardano is because the fees are at least an order or two of magnitude lower, we're able to rebalance much more dynamically and then stay in the sweet spot for liquidity provider to capture those fees. And it also other little details because we're under the hood, we're using more of an order book system. It's much easier in an order book system to switch liquidity around without having to burn your entire position. But that's more in the implementation detail. And so, but the main benefit here for Cardano is be able to have low fees, so you can rebalance your liquidity very quickly and stay in the optimal price point.
So, considering the fact that you guys are going with the order book model, what is the main difference between an AMM and an order book model?
Yes, that's a good question, and I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion. An order book model is actually what is the de facto standard for exchanges, for centralized exchanges, right? So things like Coinbase or Robinhood, all large-scale, high-performance exchanges are doing order books. So it's a tried and true design that scales really well and has been battle tested in traditional finance. Um, the question is like, why didn't we use order book designs on Ethereum or all other EVM blockchain? And the reason is order books you cannot implement them on an EVM system because EVM are by default needs to track global state and is a smart contract that can only run along a single process. It makes those order book designs very complicated and very inefficient to implement. And that's why Uniswap had to come up with a new model called the AMM model, and that AMM model was specifically designed to function on the Solidity smart contract paradigm. And so they had to make some compromise. And so one of the compromise is to kind of lose that expressiveness and flexibility of order books. But in exchange, they built something very simple, but also very elegant. So MMs are a very elegant way of doing exchanges. It's just like this constant product equation that allows you to at any time be able to compute the price of an asset. Doesn't matter how low the liquidity. The problem is that it only allows you to do market orders, which is very limiting, especially for more advanced traders that want to have better tools that they're used to in centralized exchanges, and also introduce the concept of impermanent loss. So a lot of people talk about impermanent loss, and that's a type of loss that is only relevant in an AML DEX. And so because we're using an order book system, we actually don't really have impermanent loss per se. We have other types of risks and loss that are the same ones you find in traditional finance, but it's not impermanent loss.
And that's because users essentially set the price that they're willing to, How does that work? How is there no impermanent loss for providing liquidity?
Yes. So impermanent loss is caused by because of this constant product equation. The price is a ratio of the two assets, and so it's actually a fixed liquidity curve that is imposed by the AMM. And so then it's when you have this change of ratio between the two assets that changes compared to when you entered the position, when you exit, and that change in ratio is impermanent loss. On the order book, it's a bit more complicated. It's more of a decentralized way of setting price, right? So price discovery is not at a single, it's not coming from a single liquidity curve, but it's basically a mixture of buy orders and sell orders. And then whenever an order crosses the spread, that's what the price is more of an emergent property of the DEX as opposed of a thing that you can compute. And so that's where you can allow things like limit orders and also concentrate liquidity, because now users, liquid provider can provide liquidity at specific price points, and users can also create swaps at specific price points. The thing that it introduced is a third entity, right? So you have the user, you have the liquidity provider, but the third entity in order books is what we call the smart order router. So it's this basically those off-chain routing bots that their goal is basically to operate the DEX, right? Make sure that everything runs smoothly. And so they're scanning at every block, they're scanning for new orders, they're scanning for liquidity positions, and then they're, as best as they can, match your orders with liquidity position at the best possible price, and then construction transactions and pushes that, submits that to the blockchain. And so here you could have, dozens or hundreds of different bots, those smart order routers, each optimizing different strategies and be able to process your orders at scale. And that actually brings an extra level of decentralization of your DEX, because the operation of your DEX is performed by this third entity, which are those off-chain bots.
So can anybody run an off-chain bot, or as you mentioned, a smart order router? Can anyone run those?
In theory, yes. So the idea is to make our protocol open and as decentralized as possible. And so we would want to create an environment where there's as much competition as possible between the order bots, the routing bots, and also between the liquidity providers. And that's where you can achieve a higher capital efficiency and a better experience for the user. But going full decentralization can come also with its own challenges. And so I've strategically will actually start with probably some vetted routing bots partners that we'll work with, and then over time kind of incorporate more and more decentralization into the DEX as it grows and becomes more mature.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation. So, we have these smart liquidity vaults where people are going to provide value, and then those vaults are going to earn a yield. How does the AI work in these vaults?
Yes. So the AI or the machine learning, when we say this, the implication is that you have a system that is able to learn from data. And this is really what most of AI is nowadays, is based on machine learning and based on learning from data. And so we, in the backend, are building what we call the research platform. And so it's a platform that allows us to replay the blockchain. So looking at the history of exchange of trades and behavior, and then be able to test out different algorithms that try to optimize some kind of metric, right? So you give those algorithms a metric to optimize, for example, such as yield, and then you give them some historical data that it can play with, and then you kind of train the algorithm. So there's a training phase that is involved, where the data, the algorithm will just try out different strategies looking at the historical data and then test itself against the metric. And then we repeat that, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. And so that's how you can optimize the AI to learn from data and learn its own kind of internal function for example, it would be much more difficult to do it manually and figure it out. And so that allows you to then empirically find algorithms that historically work well based on the different conditions that it experienced. And then we have a number of validation processes. So it doesn't mean that an algorithm performs well, for example, like last month, that it will always perform well. So we have ways of validating the performance across different data sets, from different conditions, and make sure that it will continue to perform well in the future. And then when we do all those validation step, then the algorithm gets locked, and then we can then deploy it into production. And that's where it becomes available to the user. So the user will have access, will have multiple vaults access to them, and those vaults will have those AI algorithms that have been optimized in our research platform. And then they're able to pick the ones that they want based on their different risk level or outlook on the market.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that explanation. I really appreciate it. The Gen token, what is it and what is the utility there?
Yes, so the Gen token, this is our native token for Genius Yields. It is a utility token. So we're not going to be using it for any kind of payment or transaction. It's going to be purely as a utility token. So the main utility is governance. So you will have, as a Gens holder, you will have voting power into different protocol proposals and voting proposal that will be available to the community to tweak certain parameters and govern the protocol. Other things are also for liquidity mining. So we'll have a Gen staking program, and that staking program where a Gen holder will have to stake their gens into a smart contract or a vault, and in exchange they will get liquidity mining, so extra gens that will be distributed to them, but also yield from the protocol. So we're actually redistributing 20% of all the fees collected across our platform back to the gens holder. So all the fees, 20% of all the fees we get from the DEX, and 20% of all the fees we get from the yield optimizer will be then redistributed to our treasury and then back to the Gen staking program. So it'll be a very powerful source of yield. And the idea is, like, as the Genius Yield grows and becomes more popular and earns more fees, it benefits everyone in the community, where all the Gen holders get a cut of that growth.
So that's specifically for those that stake, right? Stake the Gen tokens.
Yes, and that's because staking, it's easier for us to calculate, to know how much gens you have. So then we can provide you, we can know how much rewards you are eligible to. Mm-hmm. And so you will have, if you own 5% of the gens in the staking programs, then you get 5% of all the rewards. Similar to like a regular stake pool, right? So your rewards are proportional to how much you stake. And so these are the source of yield. So fees from the protocol, and also liquidity mining. And on top of that, you also have like in-platform benefits. So access to more advanced features on the DEXs for Gen stakers, but also access to more advanced vaults. So we'll be continuing creating more vaults with different AI algorithms, and then some of them will be more premium and will be only accessible to those stakers. And other benefits, like maybe like different skins for our wallet, or maybe different access to different upcoming programs. We have the Genius Academy, which is a program to provide courses and content, educational content about crypto, blockchain, Cardano, DeFi. And so some of that content will be premium and will be accessible also by the Gen stakers.
That's really cool that a portion of the rewards actually goes back, 20% goes back to Gen holders that stake. That's That's pretty awesome. That's a real utility there, I would say. That's honestly all my questions for you today. Is there anything that we didn't cover in this podcast that you think is very important to get out there to the community?
Just in general, so we're very focused on the DEX and the yield optimizer, which are coming later this year. But I think Genius Yield is also a very ambitious project. We have a lot of other side ventures and projects that we're working on, right? I talked about the Genius Academy, which is this educational platform. And ideally, it will become more of like a community-driven platform where people can then also have guests and people coming in to teach and provide like lectures and lessons to everyone. But we also have a program called Genius X, which I'm also very excited about. And so it's an accelerator program for Cardano. So Genius X is partners accepts in their accelerator program like young Cardano projects, founders, entrepreneurs, developers that have a very solid idea and product, but really need extra help to maybe set up their entity or maybe raise money for their projects, build out their team and their marketing, and be able to grow and be successful. And so pretty soon, we already made an announcement about Genius X, but I think pretty soon we'll have another announcement that will kind of show all our partners. We have over like 4 or 5 projects already joining us in our first kind of group of our Genius X programs. And we really hope that this program grows to become like the go-to place where young entrepreneurs on Cardano can come together and really help each other kind of grow their product and their company. And so because if Cardano succeeds as an ecosystem, right, we all succeed as a community. So it's important to also try to understand there is competition obviously between projects, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same blockchain, and a healthy, vibrant DeFi ecosystem is something that we all want. And if it's important that we all help each other kind of learn from each other and then grow as an ecosystem.
That's often how it is, on a team. You're just missing one little part that would really expedite things. One thing, where you're at sounds very pleasant because I keep hearing these little birds. It's not annoying or bad at all, but it just sounds so peaceful where you're at. Just little birds chirping in the background.
Yeah. I'm nice. I'm more in the countryside, so you can definitely hear the birds or even the roosters in the morning.
Yeah, the roosters. I actually got back from Puerto Rico, and that was a surprise to me. Same thing there. Roosters every morning. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I definitely learned a lot, and thank you.
Yeah, well, it was a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. When I get some more questions, we'll have to set one up again, or as we move towards a launch of the DEX and then a launch of the yield optimizer. It'd be awesome to kind of keep a nice flow of communication for the audience here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please comment down below. Also, click that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is the Cardano Aura podcast. We bring anybody from the Cardano ecosystem that is adding value. And I hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you, and have a good rest of your week. So the giveaway word, what is it? It's Genius Yield. Comment Genius Yield down below if you made it till the end. I appreciate you guys.